A typhoon bearing down on the Philippines right now, what we've already learned about deaths there. Unrest resurfaces in Portland, Oregon, the recharged protests after a man was killed by police in that area. And there's still a chance to do early voting before Election Day. Catherine Robinson will let us know where and when to go.
Breaking news alerts and the Weather Authority forecast. This is Good Morning Cincinnati, live on Local 12.
Are you just rolling out of bed this morning? Did you remember to set the clocks back? You got an extra hour of sleep if you wanted it. We've got your news, we've got your sports, we've got your intrepid Brad Mousehart with a first look at how weather is going to look today.
I'm awake as I have ever been for a Sunday morning show. Hey, coming up, your full Weather Authority forecast. We'll have it for you in a few minutes, David.
Wow, back up to 70. Thanks, Brad. Well, have you had enough of election 2020? Have you had enough of the negative ads? Have you had enough of the robocalls and the solicitations for money? Oh, yeah. And have you voted yet? Well, here's Catherine Robinson right now to the rescue. For those of you who have not quite decided which way you're going to vote, Catherine should know.
Yes, so I had requested my absentee ballot. I'm now voting early. David?
All right, thank you, Catherine. If you plan to dive in on Election Day, polls will be open from 6:30 to 7:30 in Ohio and from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. in Kentucky and Indiana. All right, we are following the latest on unrest in Portland, Oregon, and in the nearby community of Vancouver, Washington, where a man was shot and killed by officers. Protesters did damage to businesses in downtown Portland last night. They also left graffiti in many spots. The demonstration was described as a march against capitalism and police violence. 21-year-old Kevin Peterson was shot and killed by Clark County, Washington deputies during a narcotics investigation. Peterson allegedly fired a gun at law enforcement. And the death toll is now up to over 50 from an earthquake in Turkey and Greece. It struck Friday in the Aegean Sea northeast of the Greek island of Samos and measured at least magnitude 6.6. Rescue workers are still working around the clock to extract people from the rubble of collapsed buildings. A tsunami also caused massive flooding in many areas of western Turkey. At least 900 injuries were reported. And at least 4 people are confirmed dead as Typhoon Goni pounded the Philippines this morning. The strongest typhoon of the year made landfall on a series of islands where hundreds of thousands of people have been forced to flee their homes. Wind speeds averaging 140 miles per hour got even higher in some areas. The storm is having an effect in the Philippine capital of Manila, where low-level areas are in danger of being flooded by storm surges. Well, every year, tens of thousands of children go missing in the United States, and many of them end up being trafficked for sex.
They would bring, different men to the house, and they fed me drugs, alcohol. The one time that I was brave enough to say no, one of the men put a gun to my head and said, "No one tells me no."
Goodness, the problem is so large, so widespread, it's often hidden in plain sight. See our exclusive investigation tomorrow on Local 12 News, live at 11. Well, turning to sports now, the Bengals, they are looking for that second win of the season as they take on the Tennessee Titans at home today. They lost to the Browns in a close one last week, and this week it's not going to be any easier for the Orange and Black. The Titans are in first place in the AFC South. They're 5-1. Bengals are also down a number of players this week, but their backups are hungry and ready to roll.
Some guys are taking extra scout team reps, and we have the players to be able to do that.
Kickoff today at 1 p.m. You can watch that game right here live on Local 12. Well, coming up, changes are coming to Old Montgomery, the law that goes into effect today to make it a little bit more fun. That's coming up just ahead. But first, Asian Restaurant Week getting ready to begin, how it will allow you to sample some different foods. That's all coming up next on Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday. Switch. Being convicted of a felony is one of the qualifications to get hired at a new coffee shop in Hamilton. The Fringe Coffee House only hires former inmates. After working to open for nearly 2 years, the shop is finally up and running. Alexa Helwig shows us how it's giving second chances to former prisoners.
It's the first-hand experience of spending time in prison. In Hamilton, Alexa Helwig, Local 12 News.
All right, thank you, Alexa. Boy, what a cool program. The Fringe Coffee House plans to hire 6 full-time employees. Well, today is the final day of operation at Kings Island for the year. No, say it ain't so. They're offering families some Halloween fun for their fall festival today. The gates open at 11 a.m. for safe corn and hay mazes, live entertainment and rides. Families can also sample more than 24 unique food offerings located at stands throughout the park. It's been a decent season anyway. The Cincinnati Museum Center is holding its own election this weekend. You can vote for the mayor of the cave at the Museum of Natural History and Science. Oh yeah, there's the cockroach, just saw the lizard, and of course, the turtle. He's running on the motto, slow and steady wins the race, by the way. All three will hold a campaign appearance this morning at 10:30. Voting ends tomorrow. Results will be announced on Election Day. Sean Connery has died at the age of 90. A great long life. Tina Kraus has a look at the Scotsman's celebrated life and career.
Bond. James Bond.
Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
From Local 12, the Weather Authority, this is Brad Mouseart's hour-by-hour forecast.
It'll certainly be missed. 8-4. David.
Sunny and 70 next Saturday. Looks awesome. Well, hey, just in case you missed the beginning of our newscast, we're going to have a final look at your top stories coming up next. You're watching Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday. Investigative news program Full Measure. Cheryl Atkinson has a preview of this week's show.
Coming up this week on Full Measure. All that coming up this week on Full Measure.
All right, thanks, Cheryl. Full Measure does start at 11 a.m. right here on Local 12. Now, for a look at this morning's top stories, a cyclist seriously hurt in a hit-skip crash this morning. It happened a little before 7 on Eastern Avenue near Wortman Street in the East End. The cyclist was taken to the hospital. Investigators are still looking into the incident. Early voting continues in Hamilton County today. You can stop by the Board of Elections in Norwood from 1 until 5. They're also open from 8 until 2 tomorrow. If you're voting in a different county or different state, just contact your Board of Elections for the hours. They do vary pretty much everywhere. The Bengals taking on the Titans today at Paul Brown Stadium. They did lose to the Browns, of course, last week in a close one. This week, it's not going to be any easier for the Orange and Black. The Titans are in first place in the AFC South. They're 5-1. Kickoff is at 1. You can watch the game right here on Local 12. And now for a final check of your forecast. Brad Mouseart, looks like it's going to be a cold one today.
Yeah, a little bit of a chilly stretch here the next couple of days. David.
All right, thank you, Brad, and thank you for joining us, everyone. Go make sure that you set your clocks back on that microwave, that oven, and any other clock that you might have in your house. Have a great Sunday. We'll be back here tonight for more news, weather, and sports. President Donald Trump supporters flooding Washington, D.C. A look at what's being called the Million MAGA March. SpaceX ready to launch tonight. Details on its mission to the International Space Station.
Setup is underway for a local art show. We are live this morning with what it means for business owners during this season.
Breaking news alerts and the Weather Authority forecast. This is Good Morning Cincinnati, live on Local 12.
It is 8:30 Sunday morning. You are watching Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday. If this was not your destination, you may want to alert your flight attendant because we are leaving the gate right now. Brad will stop by your row to serve up a big helping of weather with a bit of turbulence this morning. Isn't that right, Brad?
Like the worst airport. What's your worst airplane snack? Probably like just a plain old bag of pretzels. I'm going to have it for you in less than 20 minutes. David.
I wouldn't mind getting back up into the 60s. Thanks, Brad. President Trump is thanking thousands of people who took to the streets of Washington, D.C. to protest the results of the election. Some are calling it the Million MAGA March. Audra El-Nashar was there and has a look at their message.
Supporters of President Trump crowding the street in Washington. I'm Audra El-Nashar reporting.
A lot of passionate people out there. Projected President-elect Joe Biden spent yesterday riding bikes with his wife near his beach home in Rehoboth. We're all going to learn that one from now on. Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. A reporter shouted a question at him as he was riding by, and he said that he is closer to making his cabinet decisions. Meanwhile, Biden's transition team is proceeding, but says it's being hampered by President Trump's refusal to authorize the usual sharing of classified information. And we are learning new information about 5 American soldiers killed in a helicopter crash in Egypt. One of them is from Ohio. The crash happened while on a peacekeeping mission in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. They were part of an international force that monitors the 4 decades-old Israeli-Egyptian peace agreement. Kyle Robert McKee, who's from the Cleveland area, is among the deceased. The other soldiers who died are from Texas, North Carolina, Massachusetts, and Illinois. SpaceX is now set to launch a rocket this evening in Florida after a launch on Friday was scrapped. It was mostly because SpaceX wants to recover and reuse its rockets, so it has to land on a barge out in the Atlantic Ocean, but rough weather offshore kept the ship from getting that barge into place in time. One of the keys to SpaceX's success is reusability.
It's the start of kind of a new era in terms of how we're going to ferry crews up and down to the International Space Station.
4 astronauts will be riding to the International Space Station for the milestone 6-month mission. 3 are Americans and 1 is from Japan. It includes first-time flyer Victor Glover, who is set to become the first black astronaut to stay for an extended period of time aboard the space station. Well, there's a big holiday moment in New York City this weekend. The giant tree at Rockefeller Center has arrived. Man, look at the size of that thing. It's a huge Norway spruce measuring 75 feet tall. Many New Yorkers were relieved to see it since so many holiday customs have been canceled now due to the coronavirus, including the Radio City's Christmas Spectacular. The tree will be lit up December 2nd. Always a fun event. And local artisans are hoping holiday shopping will help businesses in the Cincinnati Winter Avant-Garde Art and Craft Show. It is giving those business owners a chance to kick off the season today. Local 12's Catherine Robinson. She is live at the Oasis Center in Loveland, where the art show is going to be taking place. Good morning, Catherine.
Hey, good morning, David.
Thanks, Catherine. I like that little Santa on a shelf with the chef hat and the big nose. Very cute. All right, well, that show, by the way, it does run from 10 to 4 today. Well, we are following some good news regarding a local high school soccer program. We'll tell you who won a state championship. That's coming up just ahead. Plus, we go to Augusta, Georgia for a look at pandemic-altered Masters. That's coming up next. We'll be right back. The Crohn's Conservatory's holiday show is now up and running. It is called A Very Merry Garden Holiday Show and features holiday trees, red poinsettias, and classic trains. Check that out. So cool. You're going to spot some familiar buildings and bridges modeled after Cincinnati landmarks. Really cool.
In our hearts, we all need something very special, and you can keep that memory for years to come.
Personally, I like the trains. The show runs through January 10th. And we have a shout out to the Marymount High School boys soccer team. They won a state championship last night, beating Youngstown's Cardinal Mooney for the Ohio Division III title. This is the first state championship in soccer for the Marymount boys. Way to go, guys. And golf's rite of spring, the Masters, is now an autumn rite, I guess. It's 7 months late and significantly changed by the pandemic, but the drama is right on schedule. Manuel Bajorquez reports from Augusta.
The world's #1 Manuel Bajorquez, CBS News, Augusta, Georgia.
Thank you, Manuel. The local 12 coverage of the Masters starts at 10 o'clock this morning, bright and early. And Brad was up bright and early with us this morning. It is definitely not going to be golf weather out there today in the tri-state.
Maybe not even bright and early because it's all gloomy outside. Mostly sunny skies Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. David.
Wow, Brad, 50-mile-per-hour gusts. Anti-M. All right, a final look at your top stories. That's coming up next. You're watching Good Morning Cincinnati Sunday. 12, the investigative news program Full Measure. Cheryl Atkinson has a preview of this week's show.
Coming up this week on Full Measure.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Full Measure starts at 11 right here on Local 12. Now for a look at this morning's top stories. It has been a violent weekend in the city of Cincinnati. 25-year-old Joshua Hawkins was found shot and killed last night off Hillside Avenue in Riverside. Also, 4 children were shot in Winton Hills yesterday afternoon. They are between 12 and 16 years old, and luckily they are expected to survive. The Ohio River back open for river traffic. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet shut it down Friday to make sure the Brent Spence Bridge's steel was not compromised during that fiery truck crash. tests show that the fire from that crash did not affect the steel at the molecular level. And the Bengals, they are in Pittsburgh today for a game against the undefeated Steelers. The Bengals are coming off a bye week after that big win against the Titans a couple of weeks back. Joe Mixon, though, he is out for today's game. Kickoff is at 4:25. Now for a final check on your forecast, Brad.
And they're dealing with rainfall through the entire work week. David.
All right, thank you, Brad. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this early Sunday morning. Hope that you have a great Sunday. Make sure you batten down those hatches. It's going to be a little chilly out there, especially with the wind. It's a breezy one. We will be back here tonight at 6, so make sure you tune in for Local 12 News. We'll bring you all the news, weather, and sports from throughout the day. Have a good Sunday.
With all the talk about wearing masks these days, David Winter looks at how you can express your thoughts without expressing your breath.
Behold the plain blue surgical mask. It's become an icon of COVID-19, a symbol of our struggle with coronavirus. But some of us cannot be silenced by a mask, so we turn to the craftsy website Etsy so we no longer have to pass each other on the street expressionless. You can find masks here whether you love OU, UK, or you're okay with UC. If you're into birds or bikes or beers, if you want pink and plastic or delicate and daisied to save your ears. There are masks for those who love coffee, though you must give this mask the slip when you take a sip. Of course, a little ingenuity fixes that affliction to remain masked while feeding your addiction. Some prefer leather, some prefer lace, some prefer snakeskin to cover their face. At least when you're wearing a mask, you don't have to worry about shaving. Or do you? They say to avoid religion and politics when you're at work, but some people can't mask their feelings. Especially when it comes to the president. Some don't like Mr. Trump. Some agree with Mr. Trump. Some want to be Mr. Trump. Some want to show they back Black Lives Matter. Others just want to be back in black. Let's face it, most of us are just dog-tired of wearing masks and looking at each other's expressionless faces. So whether you're feeling sexy or silly or smiley or sad these days, give people a little window into your demeanor if you choose. Express your feelings with a mask. David Winter, Local 12 News.
That's fun.
Good.
That's fun. I'm thinking I need one with the cutout because
with the election now just 12 weeks away, people are stressing out about the stress millions of mail-in ballots may have on the system.
So David Winter set out to test one potential breakdown in the system that the U.S. Postal Service is having.
Before your ballot can get scanned in at the Board of Elections, it first has to make it to the Board of Elections. To test the system, we created 100 fake mail-in ballots by using the same size and weight Hamilton County uses for its official ballots. We addressed them to a post office box we rented at the same post office where the Board of Elections has its ballots delivered. We dropped off some at post offices, at street corner collection boxes. We did it on foot, by scooter. We even had people put them in their mailboxes.
Oh, I think it will get there. I think we have a wonderful postal service.
In fact, we covered the county, 100 different locations, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All right, here we go, into the post office. We did a Facebook Live for the big reveal. Okay. Oh, that's quite a bit. That's a pretty good take right there. Now that we've picked up all the envelopes, it's time to count. We'll spare you the drama. 95, 96, 97. 97 out of 100 fake ballots made it to the post office. Will more come in the next couple of days? We'll definitely check back. If they don't, 3% is a massive deal. It could be the difference of who becomes president. We had numbered the envelopes so we knew from where they were mailed. The 3 that have not arrived yet, a collection box in Mount Airy mailed Friday, a collection box downtown dropped off Saturday, and a home in Bond Hill Thursday where we watched Ebony Kemp put the envelope in her mailbox. Do you trust the mail?
Yes, yes.
You think it'll get there on time?
Yes.
We'll see. We wanted to speak to the Postal Service, but it declined our request for an interview, instead sending a written statement saying the Postal Service has ample capacity to meet projected election and political mail volume. And while Jason Hummer says he believes that, he still plans to vote at his polling place.
Would you trust the mail to get your ballot to where it's supposed to go?
Absolutely.
You just like to vote in person?
Right.
The surest way to make certain your vote is counted. David Winter, Local 12 News.
In Indiana and Kentucky, the deadline to accept mail-in ballots is Election Day. In Ohio, as long as your ballot is postmarked the day before the election, your ballot will still count up to 10 days after Election Day. And we'll let you know if those 3 missing ballots ever make it. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy says the Postal Service is capable and committed to delivering the nation's election mail securely and on time.
DeJoy testified today before a Senate committee answering questions about the U.S. Postal Service's readiness for this November's election.
Local 12's David Winter wanted to test the system himself. So here is a conclusion of our reports on testing the mail for the mail-in ballot system.
We mailed 100 mock ballots to a box we rented at the same post office where the Board of Elections receives ballots. We mailed them from 100 different post offices, mailboxes, and homes across the county.
Oh, that's quite a bit. That's a pretty good take right there.
After 4 days, 97 of 100 had arrived, so we gave it a few more days. David Winter here at the Norwood Post Office. We checked back live on Facebook.
Let's see if those 3 ballots have shown up. And 1, 2. We're still missing 1.
We had numbered the envelopes, so we knew from where the missing ballot was sent. Bond Hill, where we watched Ebony Kemp put it in her mailbox.
So it's been 2 weeks now since we sent the 100 mock ballots. Has that final unreceived ballot come in? Let's find out. It has not, just junk mail. Hey, David Winter, remember me?
We went back to Ebony's house.
The one that did not make it was yours.
She was not surprised. She says it's sitting in her kitchen.
The mailman never grabbed it. He just put other mail on top of it.
Right.
Ebony grabbed the ballot with the rest of her mail and never put it back in the box.
I got so much going on right now. My mind is everywhere, honestly.
And that might be the biggest breakdown in the system, the human factor. Will people steal ballots from mailboxes if they support opposing candidates? Will ballots never make it to the mailbox?
If you don't mail it, it's definitely not going to make it.
Right. You right about that.
So our test complete. 99 of 99 ballots made it to the post office within a week, and 1 safely accounted for.
Mystery solved.
David Winter, Local 12 News.
Well, boards of elections say that the surest way for your mail-in ballot to get counted is to use a drop box outside their offices. The next best way is to drop it in a USPS collection box or at the post office itself. Just make sure you check the collection times.
1.5 million people across the country are under guardianship, unable to make decisions for themselves, like writing a check, for instance, but many of them are legally able to vote. I did some digging and found out that includes thousands of people right here in the tri-state.
My initial response was she shouldn't vote.
Why?
Because she was declared unable to live alone. She's unable to make her medical decisions.
Leslie Nepper has guardianship over one of her family members who called her over the weekend excited that she just voted.
I had a lot of concerns. The first one was, if I can't get in there, who did? Who took it? How it was marked, to be honest, and whether it was legal if she voted.
We came to the nursing home where Leslie's family member is a resident, and we spoke with someone on staff who would not go on camera but told us off camera that they had 2 staff members certified to administer ballots, one Republican, one Democrat. In Ohio, nursing homes can request their own certified staff or have people from the Board of Elections come administer ballots. But the Board of Elections does not determine whether people should vote. There are people in nursing homes right now who don't even know what decade it is.
who don't know who their family members are. Should they be voting?
The right to vote is precious, and this is not one that the Board of Elections can make a determination on. If you have a family member that you believe is not mentally competent for voting purposes, then you should seek guidance from the probate court.
A person could be adjudicated incompetent, found incompetent to manage their property and their personal affairs, and yet still be able to vote.
This probate attorney says judges need to be petitioned and then make the determination whether to render someone incompetent to vote with no set criteria, just a judgment call. And the fact is, none of Hamilton County's 600,000 registered voters have been deemed incompetent to vote.
It's not made automatically. It's not made across the board widely.
Leslie says she is now convinced her family member was able to vote competently, and the act of voting may have done some good.
I haven't heard her that excited on the phone in a couple of years, where she kept saying, "It's official, I voted."
People in Kentucky, like Ohio, need a probate judge to rule them incompetent to vote. Indiana has no laws on the books regarding voting competency. There are states like New Jersey, though, that do not allow people to vote if they are under someone else's guardianship.
Seen some long lines and eager voters during the early voting period.
Polls wrapped up in Indiana at noon, most of Kentucky by 4:30, and all of Ohio at 2 p.m. Local 12's David Winter joining us now live from Butler County. And David, I understand there is still quite a bit of activity going on there where you are.
Yeah, you know, early in-person voting ended at 2 o'clock. The last voter left here at 3 o'clock, but you can see there's a line here. It's because of these drop boxes. Yep, a lot of people waited until the last minute to drop off their mail-in ballots. This is an election like we've never seen.
Minute 35, you got to get in line.
Things were not so calm just before 2 p.m. though. The lines were long and time was running out. We synced our watches because the deputy director of the Board of Elections was not messing around.
If they're here and they're in line at 2 o'clock, they get to vote. If they don't get in line till 2:01, we're going to follow the Secretary of State directive and we're going to cut them off right there. And luckily they'll have the opportunity to go vote in person tomorrow.
3, 2, 1. It's over.
Tabitha Jennings got in just under the wire.
I didn't know they closed at 2.
You just got lucky?
Yes. I was at Walmart and I was like, I'm going to go down here and vote because I'm this close, and it was 18 seconds when I got in line.
Wow. Unfortunately, this woman showed up about a minute later.
I am very upset because I have to drag my 2 kids out. I'm pregnant and it took forever for me to park and get a spot and get out here.
If there's any consolation, she was not alone.
2 o'clock we close by law, so you have to be in line.
No, I was trying to find a place to park.
We stopped the line at 2 o'clock.
Okay. The line closed at 2 o'clock, so you'll have to go to your polling location tomorrow and cast a ballot there.
All right, thank you.
We're just absolutely through the roof on any records. There's really nothing to compare to.
And even though some people were disappointed today, plenty of others have voted. As of this morning, 50,000 mail-in and 57,000 in-person voters, including the last people in Butler County to vote early in person for 2020.
You did it! You're the last voters!
Yeah.
People very excited here today. Now, they do expect about half of the people who are going to vote in Butler County to vote tomorrow. But because there have been so many early voters, it's actually going to be lighter than normal. Lighter than a normal year. It is just unreal. Reporting live from Butler County, David Winter, back to you.
All right, David, thank you so much. There are still about 6,000 mail-in ballots not received yet there at the Butler County Board of Elections. Now, even if they all arrive tomorrow, election officials say they do have the capacity to have unofficial numbers released by the end of the evening. Charmaine McGuffey will be the first woman to lead the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office.
She is also the first openly gay sheriff in Ohio. David Winter joins us live from a place where she was fired just a few years ago. David.
Paula, Charmaine McGuffey walked out of these doors in 2016, stripped of her badge and out of a job. Today, she walked into this courtyard, about to be in charge of the people who were involved in her investigation and her firing.
There's a new sheriff in town.
A very different scene this morning compared to press conferences McGuffey has held over the past few years, announcing her firing from and her lawsuits against the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. She claims it was discrimination for being a lesbian, a practice she says will end January 4th.
I am going to focus on keeping every one of us safe with equal justice, equal safety, and diversity that reflects our community.
We reminded McGuffey that she now holds the fate of those who were instrumental in having her fired. What is going to happen with them?
You know what? I'm going to ask them to work hard and help me make this department the best it's ever been. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask them. I have absolutely no intent on anything that even shows of retaliate, that even is that. It is absolutely not something I've thought about. That's not me. I'm not a vindictive person.
I think it's going to be good.
The attorney representing the sheriff's 800 employees say McGuffey's promise to reallocate funds is welcome news with the rank and file.
People are looking at this encouraged that perhaps there's going to be some relief in staffing, there's going to be relief in training.
The Hamilton County Clerk of Court says he looks forward to promised inmate and bond reforms, and change would not have happened without McGuffey.
I think the status quo would continue, and the status quo, unfortunately, in Hamilton County for too long has been a good old boys network.
Well, jail reform, staffing reform, bond reform, technology reform. McGuffey says that she's going to be very busy when she takes office in January. But the first thing she says she's going to do is require all employees to wear masks when they're in the jail or in the courthouse. Reporting live from the jail, David Winter, back to you.
Thank you, David. And we asked the sheriff-elect whether she would still move forward with her wrongful termination lawsuit now that she is heading the department she is suing, and she said she would.